Hey everyone, this is BlendMaster here with another tutorial, and today we're going to create an abstract image, these waves that you see here. And so we're going to go over creating the process. We'll be using a displacement modifier to create most of these bumps, and also show you guys how to create the material and a little bit of compositing to just make it pop out. So let's get started. First thing we're going to do is delete the cube and the lamp. And then we're going to go to front view, orthographic view, press Ctrl Alt 0 to snap our camera to view, select it and press Alt G so now it's in the center of our scene, and then press G, Y, -10. And we're just going to work from our camera view. Now I'm going to add a cylinder by pressing Shift A, cylinder, tab into edit mode, rotate it on the Y axis by 90 degrees. I'm also going to switch over to face select mode and select both of these outside faces. Okay, now I will press E to extrude, and then S so we can scale it out, and then on X to scale it along the X axis. I just want to scale it out so it's an equal distance from our center piece, so that this and this are about the same. We're going to do that 2 more times. So that's 1, and that's 2. And I'm going to move this back another 5, I think. Or I'll just position it like that. Okay. And now I'm going to tab into edit mode again and select both of the faces and delete them by pressing X and faces. So first, before we add the displacement modifier, we want to create some of the bends naturally in the modeling process. So I'm just going to press O to enable proportional editing and select some of these top faces. Actually, first we have to add loop cuts to each of these so that we can get some more faces to work with. And now we can select our faces and move them around like that. And then just move them up, move them in, anything you want really, because it's your image. So like that, maybe. Then pull this in like that. Overall drag it down. And then maybe just one more bump over here. Okay, I think that's looking pretty good. So we'll just give it some smooth shading, and then we'll come over to the modifier tab and add a subdivision surface modifier, level 2, and then we'll add a displacement modifier, give it a new texture, and name it big. Then we'll head over to the texture panel and switch the size to 1. And you can see we're getting some nice big bumps, but I want it to be a little exaggerated, so we'll set the strength to 2.5. Okay, now we'll add another subdivision surface node, or modifier, set it to 2, and add another displacement modifier. And I'll name this one small because we're going to change the size of it to 0.1, or actually 0.2, and make the strength 0.1. Okay, so I think that's looking pretty good. Now all we have to do is create the material. So let's head over to cycles, give it a new material, and I'm going to open up a node editor and a UV image editor. And to get our color gradient, we're going to be using a gradient texture. I don't know how that slipped my mind. I said the word gradient right before. Okay, so gradient texture. We'll be using the UV coordinates for it, and we'll use a color ramp to give it the color. I'm going to plug this color ramp into a emission shader. Okay, delete this diffuse node, and we'll go into rendered view. And I'm just going to hide our displacement modifiers so that this will render faster and it won't lag here either. And then I'm going to change our background color to black as well. So first we have to unwrap our cylinder, and I'm just going to press U and project from view, because we don't need it to be perfect, we just want this area to be a specific color gradient across. So that's good enough. And now if we go into rendered view, you can see that starting here it's black and ending here it's pure white. So we want to make this black slider pure red and this white slider pure red also. And you can use any colors you want, you don't have to use the same colors I'm using, but I'm just going to use the rainbow because it looks good with abstract scenes. Okay, so orange, then yellow, then green, and blue, purple, and pink. Okay, now you can space these out however you want, so that if you want more of one color you can have it, but I'm just going to try to space them out equally so I can just get everything the same, have the same amount of every color. And it doesn't have to be perfect either. I think that's close enough. Maybe just adjust it a little bit. Okay, so that's looking good. Now we're going to mix this emission shader with a transparent shader. Okay, and I'm just going to bring in or unhide one of our displacements. Okay, and you can see what it's doing is making 50% of our object emitting light and 50% of it's transparent. But what we want is the edge to be emitting light and the inside to be transparent. So to do that, we'll be using a layer weight node. And let's just plug in the facing value and switch the blend type to 0.1. And then we will swap these two, and there you can see we're getting a nice outline which is colorful and the inside is more transparent. I'm just going to bring the strength up to 5 so it'll be brighter. Now I'm just going to select all of this and drag it back. We're going to duplicate our emission shader, layer weight, and mix shader by pressing Shift D, and then duplicate our, or never mind, and just plug this one right in there and plug this one here. Okay, and we want this emission color or strength to be 1 and pure white, so let's change that. And in between this layer weight node and the mix shader, I'm going to add a color ramp. And if we plug this color ramp into an emission shader and view it, you can see that all these white values are where our emission shader will show, and the black values are where this entire other shader will show. And we don't want it to show everywhere, so we want to increase our black values so that it's mainly just the outside that's showing the white emission. And we want to increase that value as well to like that. And now if we look at it, it looks a lot better. You can play around with those values to get whatever effect you want. I think that's looking good. So now I'll just unhide this displacement and we can take a look. And that's looking pretty good. So let's just render this out quickly. I have it set to 10 samples. And you don't really need that much samples for the scene since it's emitting light and it's very blurry anyways because of the mix of the emission and transparent shader. Now let's head over to the compositor, check use nodes and backdrop, make it full screen, and add a viewer node. And I'm just going to add a blur to this image, switch it to fast Gaussian, relative Y, and then 5 by 5. I'll duplicate this again. Whoops. And switch it to 2 by 2. And I'll duplicate it one more time and switch it to 0.1 by 0.1. Okay, now I'm just going to add all of these. So Shift A, color mix, switch it to add, and then duplicate it again and add this. Whoops, it was still at mix, so switch it to add. Okay, actually I'm going to get rid of this one and just mix it with the original. But before I do that, I'm going to add a hue saturation node right here and bring down the value of this to 0.5 and then plug it in. Is that what I want to do? Or let's flip both of these, and then you can change this factor so that you can increase how much of the blur that you want in your scene. I think that's good. I might just increase it to 10 by 10 and 5 by 5. Yep. And I might bring that down to 2. And that's looking pretty good. So I'm just going to go back, increase the samples to maybe 100. And I might add another subdivision surface modifier just to smooth out any extra sharp edges there are. You don't have to do this. I didn't do it in my last one. I just thought I would try it here. And I'm going to render this out and come back when it's done. Okay, so it's done rendering. Let's take a look. I think that's pretty good. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial creating this abstract wave image. If you have any suggestions for future tutorials, feel free to leave them in the comments as well. And thanks for watching. Bye.